Speaking of girls and monsters, you want to briefly bring up Mr. McMahon?
As briefly as possible, because
Yeah.
it's just I heard those excerpts you were reading, DT, and you were doing your best there, and I can only imagine.
Listen,
I mean, that was a tough listen. That was a tough listen.
Look, I will tell you this, and I mean this sincerely. I had people tell me that's the greatest show that I ever did because I was just very realistic and, just straight up with it. I'm not going to lie to you. I felt uncomfortable halfway through because, look, I mean, we all have fantasies to a degree, but just picturing him in his mid-70s doing this stuff, and then thinking of all this, the text messages, I realized halfway through, I'm like, you know what, after a while it just feels uncomfortable. But the thing is, coming out of this, and for those that don't know, tonight the Bellas issued a statement. And the Bellas, because obviously their mother is married to John Laurinaitis. And the Bellas said, and I quote, "We are shocked and disheartened with the recent allegations against members of the WWE. It has been a lot to process since we found out this past week, as you all did. This is something we don't stand for or condone from anyone, no matter who they are. We want all women to feel safe and supported in the workplace and in their everyday lives." Now, Kevin and I are not going to get into the particulars, because one thing Kevin and I have realized is that 99% of the internet have not read the court papers. Because Brock Lesnar is getting crucified, and Brock Lesnar never actually met with this woman. Brock Lesnar,
he didn't.
All Brock Lesnar is like, show me a video of you peeing on yourself. He made
a crass comment.
Yeah, I mean,
he didn't
that's
do
all
anything
he did.
physically.
I'm not downplaying it, but people making it sound like that Brock Lesnar actually assaulted this woman, and it's not
No,
true.
he didn't do that.
Plus, people are saying that Triple H is executive number one, but if you look at the timeline, Triple H was in a hospital bed fighting for his life.
Exactly.
It's like a bad Lifetime movie meets Rob Black. It's like you just picture, this woman, which I feel bad for. She was down on her luck, but she was not a 17-year-old homeless woman. This is a woman that I guess her good friend in the building, just didn't do a homework. How do you go to Vince's condo? I mean, she doesn't deserve what happened to her, but how do you go to Vince's condo over and over and over again? And then 3 months later, you're having coffee with your girlfriend. Hey, so how's the job going? I didn't get it yet. I've been over his house 9 times and, so good, with the massages, but I haven't gotten the job yet. But I'm going to, somebody's got to tell her, girl, you got to do a search on Vince. He's grooming you. Or, it just sounds like a bad fucking film. It's awful. And Vince realized, wow, in all of my 74 years, I finally found someone that I can truly take control. And it is absolutely vile what Vince did, John Laurinaitis did. My fear is that Vince has boatloads of text messages from her where she is into this stuff too, and it is going to be a hot mess. I think Vince McMahon is finally going to be served with divorce papers from Linda. I think John Laurinaitis is going to be served with divorce papers. Vince will never be back in the WWE, nor should he. But I will say this. My biggest problem with this lawsuit is this. There is a celebrity doctor that was involved in these sexcapades. There was a physical therapist that was involved in these threesomes and did some crazy perverted shit. When Vince actually went to the bathroom on this girl's head and then went in the shower, the other person was the physical therapist. Why is the lawyer and this woman keeping the doctors silent? If these doctors did that vile stuff to her and they're not outed, they could be doing it to other women as we speak. So why are these people not being named if they did the stuff that they are accused of in this court case. Vince is going to get fried. Laurinaitis is going to get fried. Some other executives, it's going to be interesting to see what comes out. But my problem is, why are these physicians and doctors not being outed so others are not abused from them also?
I don't know, man. There's a lot of freaky people. What was the name of that movie that Tom Cruise was in and he went to that
Eyes
sex
Wide
club?
Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut. Shout out, speaking big Tom Cruise fan. Shout out to our friend and family member Trez, who's in the chat tonight.
Oh,
so
shout
out. Yeah, Trez is there. What's up, Trez? My co-host on KNT Chronicles, the lady Trez. That movie, there it is. I shot, these weirdo for rich people sex parties and sex romps and 3-ways and 5-ways and orgies. These things exist.
Yes.
And I think wrestling fans don't want to hear this kind of gross side. I mean, there's a lot of fucked up sides. My God, how many times have we all had to do an RIP and thoughts and prayers for wrestlers who died way before they should have at their age? So now we're seeing another gross side of the business. Now, hopefully, Vince McMahon has always been a polarizing and kind of a fucked up person in general. Goes back to the Snuka cover-up. What was it, 83 DT?
83.
With Jimmy Snuka and the murder of the girl? Yep. Supposedly a cache of going to the police station, offering people to keep it quiet. It started there, and it went to a lot of different things throughout the years. The lady referee who claimed that he accosted her in a limousine. The scandal in
Chad, what was her name?
What was the referee?
Rita. Charity.
Rita.
Yeah, Charity.
And you go to the stuff with the government and stuff, and no one's really pro. We were rooting for Vince against the government because every government tries to put the squeeze on a lot of basic, normal people. So Vince was kind of heroic in that aspect. But the steroids and the growth hormone, a lot of wrestlers died young. Was it Vince's fault? Personal choice? Did he force it on people? Again, polarizing. Vince is not a sympathetic figure, DT. DT, can you imagine if he was a Mr. Rogers type, which would be very hard to be in wrestling, Fred Rogers type, and never had anything against him? Forget all the things that you've heard over the years, all the nefarious reputation that he has. And this thing was lodged against him. And you heard this. It would be an even 50-50 split of people I don't believe it. Vince has never done anything. But he has such a fucking reputation for doing fucked up shit, mistreating people. From talent to employees, doing something. There was another thing, wasn't there, DT, in a massage parlor?
Florida, the massage parlor. We covered it.
Yeah, we covered it. So he's got this, again, the word is nefarious, reputation, that he is not a sympathetic figure. And it's not because he's a billionaire or a money guy. There's a lot of rich people root for that are liked. Look at Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets. A lot of people like him. He does a lot of charitable things. He's not involved in sex scandals and stuff. So again, there's people who are billionaires who are good people, do the right thing. Vince, I think, has a lot of issues. If you read his book, stemming from childhood, I think there was sex abuse with him as a kid growing up. There's no excuse, but Vince is fucked up. He's always been fucked up. Did we know that he was this fucked up, DT? No.
She was manipulated, used, and abused. And every time, I guess Vince would shower her with gifts and money.
Well, she did get the $15,000 in gift cards.
Yeah, I mean, she got
that's
BMW.
That's big. Yeah.
She got
a BMW. That's big.
She got a lot. She got a raise from $75,000 to $200,000. Again, she doesn't deserve any of this abuse. The thing is, though,
very dicey, though, DT.
It's very dicey. It's not a cut and dry story.
No, it's not. It's not.
And very disturbing. But I will say this, and I'm not a big Brock Lesnar fan, but Brock Lesnar is getting ripped apart. I think a little bit unfair. It was a little bit unfair because he didn't do anything. I think he's getting ripped more because he's close with Vince McMahon. And also, Triple H at the Royal Rumble post conference, the press conference. Yeah, I mentioned this briefly yesterday. He works for TKO Group Holdings. He don't work for Vince anymore. TKO Group Holdings had a meeting that weekend. Triple H was most definitely told by TKO, do not talk about this. Triple H is not going to go rogue and give the press a Vince McMahon hate soundbite to appease everyone where it could damage the lawsuit. Where it could hurt TKO Group Holdings. Their stock went down about 8 or 10% today. Imagine if Triple H is throwing, darts about Vince also. He was put, in my opinion, Triple H in a very bad situation
He was.
And, maybe the words didn't come out the right way. Me personally, I think what should have happened was there should have been a prepared statement. I think Triple H should have read a statement, not to the media without us watching.
Off camera at the beginning of the scrum?
No, I don't think it should have been off camera. I think at the very beginning of the press conference, say, listen, everyone, this is a brand new lawsuit. And because there's legal, situation going on, I cannot talk about it. We have attorneys looking at it. This is not, what WWE and TKO is all about. And, Vince McMahon has resigned. He is no longer part of the company. And because it's a legal matter, and that is true. You can't take a lawsuit, especially something like this, and give wrestling media sites sound bites.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, come on, look at the political world, the sports world, the entertainment world, and you take any legitimate journalist, and because they didn't get the soundbite at the beginning of a fucking lawsuit that Triple H is fucked, I think, just people are just, I think they're really, really, really giving Triple H a little bit too hard of a time with this, because what was he supposed to say?
Exactly. And I thought that and I'm not going to name these people, these journalists, I'm doing finger quotes here. I could care less. Honestly, they do more harm than good sometimes with some of the things they report half-assed, without facts, without really thinking them through. And then they want to be heroic online going, I'm going to ask the tough questions, whatever. Okay, thanks, Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite. Calm down. If you don't know who Edward R. Murrow is, fucking look it up.
Yeah,
but DT, again, I thought he handled it as good as possible. Also, we're taking something that we're completely out of the picture here. It's his goddamn family. That's the fucking grandfather of his grandkids. What's he supposed to say? He's married to Steph, happily married. He's got several children, still young enough to be affected in school by saying something about Vince. We don't know what Triple H is thinking in his mind. I'm sure people say, I'm sure he's disappointed. Disappointed? I'm sure he's furious, but he's not going to. He's got to put a game face on, and none of us are in that position. The Bellas, too. I'll give the Bellas a little bit of credit, just circling back a little bit, DT. Yeah. Maybe that was, and everyone's like, I don't know, the wording. Well, yeah, it was, I don't know. Maybe they should have said nothing, wait for more things, because Johnny is still with their mother. Yes, but it's not up. It's up to her to leave Johnny. It's really not our call. I would leave him in a second. I'd kick him out, but that's great. Most people would, but we don't know what's going on over there. And again, man, we got family members involved. It's very simple, easy to sit back and say, oh, this is what I would do, this is what I would do. You would hope and pray. Everyone here has to admit, my God, hope no one in my family ever does something like that, whether it's a cousin, an in-law, or whatever. What you say affects a lot more people than wrestling fans.
Yeah.
These people have to go home. Triple H is in a terrible position. The Bellas are in a terrible position. Let's see what happens. I mean, again, I know everyone hates this, but let's see how things play out.
I think John Alba asked the right question. But it's just like when the press would question Trump when he was president, or they questioned Biden when he was president. Like, the answer you're going to get is, I can't comment on it.
Well, DT, no, that's John Alba might have asked the right question, but it was not the right time. You knew that they were going to talk about the Rumble. Someone actually even said it wasn't Alba, it was somebody else, who said maybe they shouldn't have had a scrum knowing that these questions are coming. Why the fuck not? It's not about that situation. It's about the Royal Rumble. Right. They should definitely have had a scrum. So don't have a scrum and duck and dodge and hide. But let's be honest, DT, most people in that audience there were there to ask questions about the Rumble. They weren't really, I don't know if everyone there, the priority question was, what do you think about Vince? I think everyone, that wrestling fans are smarter than we give them credit for. Yeah. I think everybody in that room kind of winced when that question was asked of Triple H.
Me personally, I think the question had to be asked, because if not, it would have been compared to like a Tony Khan scrum, like, oh, you really don't, the people duck important questions. But
well, Tony doesn't answer any questions.
He doesn't answer none either. I mean, there's outside investigation. Oh, okay, Tony. And there is no outside investigation. But I will say this. To all the journalists out there that hear this right now, I mean, they're obviously not going to answer this, but I say two things. If you really have a problem, why don't you go to Ari Emanuel? Why don't you go to the owners of TKO Group Holdings, who Triple H works for?
Call Vince's attorney.
Call Vince's attorney. Like, Triple H he's not on the board of directors. Triple H is an employee of that company. He is not going to do something that is going to piss off his company, especially that this happened before TKO bought the WWE. This didn't happen under TKO Group Holdings watch. This happened a couple of years ago. And I got news for you, and this is why, again, a lot of people did not read the lawsuit, so they're only going on sound bites. This investigation with Janel Grant was investigated back in 2023 by WWE and the outside lawyers, and there's a name I'm going to throw up right now that probably no one has ever heard of. Remember this name. He's going to come up multiple times. His name is Jeff Speed. He used to be on the WWE board of directors. He was let go probably last year, I believe, and he told, not only New York Times, but a couple other media outlets that, the board of directors and the investigators investigated Vince and Janel Grant. But the reason why it was never brought public was because Janel Grant had signed an NDA.
There you go.
So when people say, they knew, I call them the they knew crew. They knew. Of course they knew. He did all these NDAs. I wrote on YouTube the other day to someone, go on Google and search NDA. And NDAs are in 1/3 of the workforce. Not just celebrities, not just athletes and politics. 1/3 of the workforce has NDAs. NDAs is not just a brand. Just because wrestling didn't talk about NDAs in the past doesn't mean it's a brand new thing. NDAs is a very big part of the business world.
DT, I know a nightclub much bigger than the one that I work at who has people sign NDAs.
Right.
That they can't reveal anything. You can't say anything. And this is a big nightclub in Manhattan. No names mentioned. I don't drop names, but they have NDAs. Yeah. I know someone who left there and signed an NDA, not because anything went on or she was touched. Nothing like that. They just don't want private business of how they run their operation to be leaked to anybody else, or have disgruntled employees out there saying things disparaging about the company. That's all.
Do you think Vince is a sex addict? And do you think we're going to hear that he's getting treatment for it? And do you think he's going to use that as part of his defense?
Possibly. Vince can also use his. Vince has taken a lot of enhancement drugs for the physique that he's maintained over the years. He can maybe possibly say growth hormones, steroids, whatever. I mean, think about it, guys. Vince has probably ingested a lot of stuff to keep a physique like that in his 70s. Haven't seen him recently, but I would assume Vince is a vain man. I don't think Vince is ever going to let himself go. We're never going to see an embarrassing picture of Vince with a gut hanging out. Unless he's completely depressed and has lost it. But Vince is such an egomaniac, man. He's just a vain motherfucker. I think Vince can say whether it's medication, whether it's stuff that he's taken in the past and it's affected his brain chemistry. Vince will get some doctors in there and some specialists. Or, DT, let's go another route. Flat out, never happened. I deny it. I paid her off just to make her go away. I didn't do anything. Her word against mine. We live in a day and age of videos. Where's the video? Yeah. Where are the pictures?
Yep.
We got text. That's not good enough. You agree with me, DT?
Yeah.
But DT, didn't Vince? Do you think Vince, DT, the calculated son of a bitch he is, even for a reason, had no video or any photos of these kind of get-togethers because he was calculated about it?
You heard about him giving the photos to referees and these people in WWE, like
naked pictures. But is there pictures of the sex acts?
Yeah, I don't think so. You would think he would have filmed it, right?
You would think he would have filmed it. I mean, geez, go back to the 60s. People were buying video cameras to film their romps. Today's technology, day and age, every place you could store that, and even private cameras. I mean, there's so much gross about this whole situation.
Yeah, it's awful.
And there's no doubt that Vince, he's a powerful guy. He's an intimidating guy to a degree. But I'll be glad when we don't have to talk about this anymore. But I have a feeling DT. By the way, what do you think legal wise? Where do they go from here? Will Vince have the fucking, literally, no joke here, the grapefruits, to be so arrogant to sue her and say that everything that she said is bullshit and slander? Is Vince that arrogant to roll the dice in court and go after her for his reputation is ruined? But in Vince's mind, the fucking, what's the word he is? He's a fucking the ultimate narcissist. Yeah, do you have the balls to roll the dice in court against him? He rolled the dice in court against the government.
Yeah,
DT.
You know what I think is going to happen? I'll tell you what I think is going to happen, and I'll tell you what would fascinate the shit out of me if it did happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. I truly believe Vince is such a narcissist, and Vince is so evil and so dominating mentally and physically over this woman that he is going to have fun going to court and almost bragging, showing these texts. Does this look like a woman that was being abused? And she's
yes,
like,
I agree with you, DT. I agree with you.
Like, we don't know what he has, and I have a feeling, I think flaunting that and saying that this is she's being vindictive, and this is a woman that she was let go, and this and that, and I think he is gonna enjoy like making himself come off as, wow, I was so good, she wanted this. What are you talking about? I didn't groom nobody. She kept coming over my condo. 3 months she didn't even have the job, and she's over my condo giving me massages. We don't know if he has any tweets in those 3 months where she is being intimate. There's so much that we don't know. But I will say this, I will be fucking fascinated, and it would be the ultimate mindfuck to the wrestling media world and the IWC that hates Vince. This would be the ultimate, I'm sorry for saying this, the ultimate bang in the ass if this woman settles with Vince. Can you imagine if this woman ends up settling out of court?
Yeah. Stranger things have happened, DT. Stranger things have happened.
That goes what I always say about Twitter. How many times do we see people out there, oh, this person threatened my life, and instead of going to the cops, they go to Twitter.
True.
Right? You're threatening my kids. You're threatening my wife. I'll get you. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to tweet about it. And they don't do nothing. And as far as the Brock Lesnar stuff, if anything, the only person that should be angry with Brock Lesnar right now is Sable.
Yeah.
Like I said it yesterday, like I could only imagine when she read this and she's like, hey, you want to get peed on? And she grabs the dog. It's like, piss on his head. Go ahead, take his piss. Like, if anything, I would think Sable. But that's a private marriage. That's their problems.
Private.
But you're trying to say to me that somebody who's a married man never had a fantasy of wanting to see nudes of another beautiful woman? I mean, I don't condone what Brock did, but people online are making it seem like Brock had relations with her, and there is nothing that says that Brock had any relations.
And you could say plot and plan, but it never came to fruition. It didn't happen. And again, there's nothing. Court of public opinion, fine, but if you're talking about Brock going to court for anything else, nah. Probably just as someone who received the text, Vince looks at Brock as maybe one of his friends or the ultimate alpha male that he wants to impress. For some reason, DT, I think that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Vince wants to impress Brock Lesnar. I mean, I think that's why Vince likes Taker. I think Vince likes these guys who are more alpha male than he is, and he kind of has a bond with them and stuff like that. But listen, a friend sends something to you and say, now granted, to write back, look at this bitch, or whatever, it's inappropriate, it's a crass remark, it's a stupid remark, the whole pissing thing. I don't get that whole... Yeah, DT, and I don't get that whole, listen, I'm not telling you that piss and shit on people. I mean, what the fuck is that? That I think that's a mental thing. That's not even a sexual proclivity. That's like mental illness, in my opinion. But listen, if you send a text to somebody and say, open it, check this girl out, you open the thing up, like, what the fuck is he sending me this for? Now, granted, a married man, you're a married man, DT. I've never been a married man, but I've been in serious committed relationships. And if I opened the thing and even made a comment back, I better not say a fucking word and delete the shit right away. But again, we don't know with Sable and people telling Sable to divorce Brock. I'm like, why? I mean, we're getting into the areas of things that we're not even sure about. There's much more of this story. We read one. See, DT, what a lot of people think is what they read in those excerpts you read. That means it's all fact. Yeah. For some reason, people are taking that as fact. Stamped and approved, cut and dry. Vince McMahon is guilty. Throw him in prison. It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. You gotta wait for everything to come out, and it's very disturbing. And like you said, hopefully we don't have to talk about it anytime.
Oh yeah, I'd be glad to not talk about it anymore.
But if she, the one thing out of everything, if she fucking settles out of court, that's it. It's like...
What a slap in the face to all the women's groups and stuff that defended her. If she settles out of court, she is not going to be the baby face anymore.